So what about parents? Sammie McFarland is from Dorchester. She also set up the charity Long COVID Kids after her daughter became very ill in 2020. Sammie, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. How is your daughter? How's it been over the Christmas holidays?
She is better for not being in school and resting, so that's helpful, and that gives her more energy. So she's got more energy to do the fun things, which means that she's more like her old self, which is lovely to see. But she's still living with an energy limiting condition and having to pace herself, and she's still having periods of chronic pain where we're sort of sitting by the phone deciding, do we call 999 or can we manage it at home? So we're still in a very challenging phase.
I'm glad things were it was nice to hear that she's had a bit of a Christmas break, if nothing else, from what she's been through. Schools going back to wearing masks, lateral flow testing when they go in. Your reaction to that government change?
Well, it's great to see that there is going to be a layer of mitigation for secondary schools, and of course, testing children before they go to school is a really sensible decision. But what about the primary school children? You know, the mean age in our group is 10 years old. There are 1,000 children admitted to hospital in the last 6 months with COVID, and COVID is a high risk condition for many clinically vulnerable families, not just the children themselves, but taking it back to the household. So I'm still really concerned about the lack of mitigation in schools.
It's an interesting one because I was looking at the vaccination rollout. We've got children now 12 to 15 can get one dose, second dose as well of the COVID-19 vaccination, depending on when their birthday happens. Younger children, far harder to keep them away from each other, keep them, keep the airflow in the room, sort of managing it. It's like sort of looking after a cloud in many ways with younger children. The risk factors are lower, but I imagine because of what you've been through, your eyes and anxiety level are higher, would you say?
I don't feel anxious. I feel informed and concerned. And, when we're talking about risk being lower, we're really talking about severe disease. Of course, we don't have any modelling for long COVID. They're not counting morbidity as a risk. So we really need to be looking at what's happening in the community and seeing that there are already 77,000 children living with long COVID, and then considering that as part of the risk. But it's one of those figures that just is continually missing from the government dashboard.
Yes, and I can see that because it comes with, amongst other things, it's more figures. And I can imagine when the government's looking at figures, there are so many. I picked up the papers today and one paper had an entire double-page spread of figures. And I thought, and there's still people asking for more figures and clearer figures. And long COVID, I imagine, is quite a complicated one to get in there because, first of all, you've got to have a proper diagnosis.
Well, we really need to see a clinical definition of long COVID in children. There is one for adults, that was issued by the WHO, but we don't have that paediatric version yet. Once we do, then we'll be able to start seeing research and figures will be more consistent, and then I think will be more relied upon. But what we do know is that at the moment, there are 1 in 15 children in primary age group are infected with COVID, and we know that 1 in 7 children are at risk of getting long COVID. So anything we can do to reduce those risks is really important.
Sammie McFarland, thank you for your time this morning. Sammie is from Dorchester. She set up the charity Long COVID Kids. Her daughter became very sick in 2020.